I did a presentation for the young professionals not too long ago, and part of this is the stuff that I talked to them about, but I wanted to start in a place that we're all familiar with, and it's the two-party system. And I like this old cartoon. I had to put it in here because it's hard to read, but the three pillars of our country is federalism, republicanism, and democracy. You get peace and plenty, liberty and independence. This is literally from the days of the Constitution and when it was being argued for. And George Washington, of course, is in the corner telling about it. Now, I couldn't find one that had all of his stuff in the corner. This is a relatively rare one, but the point is that even back then, we were talking about the need for all three pillars. Now, you notice one of them's federalism. We don't talk about that much anymore unless they're in constitutional class, or we talk about it once in a while. This is on the internet. This is what young people see sometimes. This is actually presented as a piece of history. Just in case you wanted to know what I think of it, this is absolutely wrong. This is an explanation of where the parties went to from the early days to now. And it's just wrong. There's no other nice way to put it. This is actually the truth. The Federalists were led by Alexander Hamilton. They thought rich, educated people should lead the nation. They wanted a strong federal government, wanted to encourage manufacturing and trade, and supported a loose interpretation of the Constitution. Well, we know who that is, don't we? There's no ambiguity. Thomas Jefferson, the Democratic Republicans, thought the power of the people should stay with the people. They wanted strong state government. They wanted to encourage farming and agriculture, and they supported a strict interpretation of the Constitution. That's correct. So on the internet, you can get all kinds of information, and a lot of it's wrong. This is actually a very well thought out explanation of where the political parties have gone for the last 200 years. Duh. Anybody that wants to read, I'm a geek about constitutional law. Even I haven't read all those little blurbs. We're moving on. So this is also on the internet. This is the way that the young people look at the two-party system. Winner takes all rules means that only one winner wins. Because of that, you vote. You have the wasted vote concept. So voters choose not to support parties that they do not view as viable, libertarian and green. So lack of voter support discourages formation of unemployment. Now there's some truth to this. This is true. The libertarians and the green have trouble getting kind of traction because people don't waste their votes on them. But at the same time, it's also not completely the whole picture if you think about it, and we'll get into that in just a minute. This is the way the Republican brain is presented. I love this. If y'all didn't know, this is the way you are. This is your sexism section. Here's your homophobia over here. Your fear and paranoia artery. Your creation of religious zealotry zone. I'm sorry to tell you this, Fred, but that section on you just must be huge. Your hypocrisy, all of us have a lot of that. Stupidity Origination Center. So thank God for getting a lot of good scientific information out there to young people. This is actually from a college website. I like this one. It's a two-party system that discussed the Americanization of electioneering. Because you know, those mean old stupid Americans, we've made everything smaller and meaner, right? That's amazing. Anybody that's seen politics in England knows how a joke that is. But this part's actually kind of true. There is a decentralized organization within the parties. It's hierarchical. There's presidential candidate supporters that are often different than the congressional supporters that are often different from the local. We'll talk more about that later. Local cohesion, yeah, that's all correct. Now, I wanted to talk about us. So if y'all don't know geography, Texas, not U.S. I know this crowd knows what that means, right? So we don't have to go into that. Texas fact. Texas has 254 counties with a population of over 25 million. Romania, the Netherlands, Belgium, Greece, Czech, Portugal, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Hungary, Belarus, etc. all have smaller populations. Those are countries, folks. Yes. Each county has its own county Republican Party. Y'all know that. Each county Republican Party is managed by a chair. Executive committee, would you raise your hand? These are your executive committee folks. If you didn't know that, your friends that are coming to your Pachyderm also help manage the Republican Party every week, every month. So please say hi to them and be nice to them because they do extra work. Larger counties can literally have hundreds of members on their executive committee. Think about Harris County. They have
654 or something.
They have
precincts.
Right, 654. They have an average membership attendance at their meetings of 250 people. And that's only a third of the people that actually could show up. Tom Green has 34, if you're curious. All county chairs and executive committee members are elected positions, and they are not appointed, they're elected. The only way you can get rid of me is to unelect me. So, each county party is separate and independent from the state Republican Party. Those of you that call, and you don't do it, y'all know this, but we get many calls before a presidential election wanting to talk to me about what the state party's doing. Call the state party. We don't, I mean, we talk to each other, we work together, but we're totally independent. So that's the Texas stuff. Now, the Republican Party outside Texas, in case y'all are curious, again, I want to make sure you know what I'm talking about. Texas. Not Texas. So the structure system, each party, oh, y'all don't care about this, let's move on. So actually, I was going to point out that Texas party officials may endorse, support, and campaign for national, state, and local candidates without restriction under state law. However, Tennessee officials may not endorse or support any candidates or referenda during a primary election. That's their way they do it. Indiana officials may endorse whoever they want to, including Democrats, Green Party, doesn't matter, until it gets to the actual election, and then they have to go ahead and vote for the Republican in the general, whether they like it or not. So if you thought we all did things the same way, no, we don't. Every state is different, and that is part of the problem we have with some of these battleground states, because the system itself makes it difficult for us to get inroads. For example, Philadelphia, which I could spend the entire time talking to y'all about how bad it is. So again, what's the point? Lord, if this guy didn't say something about Trump pretty soon, I'm going to kill him, all right? There he is. I love this picture. And this picture is one of those, it's a little amusing, but it also, this is what's happening here. We have a new president, still the Republican Party. It's still the same Republican Party it was, it's just he's got a new hairdo. So, as much as they like to pretend otherwise, each candidate is just one representative of a party run by thousands of national and state party officials, each with a similar but different party platform and organization. No one person can accomplish anything without the support of other members of their party, including congressmen and congresswomen, senators and thousands of appointees, state, federal, blah, blah, blah. So, every Republican in Tom Green County, every elected official in Tom Green County, except the Democrat county chair, will be a Republican as of January 1. And it's all because of me, right? I did this, right? No, of course not. Well, the same thing is true with our presidency. If you think about it, now as important as the president is, it's just one guy. So let's move on. This is Politico. I put it on here so you could find the story if you wanted to see it. I admit I'm gloating. Poll. Shy Trump voters are a mirage. A new study suggests an army of hidden Trump supporters is unlikely to materialize on Election Day. That was posted on November 3rd, 2016 on Politico, an allegedly unbiased news source. This is what actually happened, and I love that the New York Times is giving us this wonderful information. Also, the source is the Associated Press. Two unbiased news organizations, right? But this is a beautiful representation in color. Although why they chose green, I think we know what color that ought to be, right? It tells you what happened in the election. Everywhere you see a pale green, that's where Republican turnout was pretty much the same. All this light green in Texas, all of this, voter turnout was about the same. Everywhere where you see dark green, that's where Republican votes that had never been counted before were received. You can see why we were competitive in Michigan. You can see why Wisconsin and Minnesota were suddenly, somebody was talking about them on election night. I love these colors in here, but look over here. Ohio, Indiana, Pennsylvania, pretty nice. So, anecdotal evidence of a shift away from gender identity towards political identity. That's a bunch of fancy words for it. In other words, citizens are getting tired of being classified as something other than American. That's what we're seeing. Anecdotal means that it's just stories. I don't have stats for it yet. But locally, sign, button, and bumper sticker sales were strong in Tom Green County, despite the fact that we are 75% or more Republican most of the time. Well over half of all sales were to women. Approximately a third of all purchases were Hispanics. I think that one's probably the one that I love the most. Hispanic voters, the ones that we were told were going to vote for Hillary, came by the headquarters, found us, despite Google changing our address on multiple occasions, despite problems we had with Bing, despite troubles we had with Yahoo. They found us, they came to our headquarters, and they gave us money for Trump signs. That's a committed voter, folks. That's the kind we want. 1/3 of all those purchases were by Hispanics. Not rich Hispanics, not poor Hispanics, not every kind of just regular old folks. The vast majority of the purchases were by working class voters. There were some Cadillacs, don't get me wrong, but a lot of working trucks, a lot of company vehicles. Signs were purchased equally among all age groups. I talked to Mary, I talked to other folks that were at the headquarters. You cannot draw a conclusion based on age group. They weren't 60 plus, they weren't 20 below. We had 25-year-olds, we had 30-year-olds. Every age group was represented pretty much equally. So, price per vote. This is the new thing they're talking about. The left is going to start talking about price per vote. This is, I thought, pretty good information. Hillary Clinton raised $687 million. That's the reported money, by the way. That's just reported. And we don't have the latest filing because, as y'all know, the last period doesn't come till after the election, right? 1138 of votes, 61 million votes. Donald Trump raised half that. Of course, he paid for a lot of stuff himself, but we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, folks, so even Donald can't afford to pay for it all by himself. $5 a vote. Gary Johnson, the Libertarian, $3 a vote. Jill Stein, the Green Party, $2.79 a vote. Pretty efficient. The Libertarian, this is from a Libertarian story, and here's the site for it, by the way. The Libertarian conclusion was that all we need to do is raise another couple $100 million and we can win the election. I'm sorry, they need to take a political science class or two. They don't understand how it works. But anyway, that was their logic, so it was kind of cute. But anyway, here's the price per vote if you're curious about how much money was actually spent. They're trying to say the Republicans bought the vote, but we know which party tried to, don't we? Okay, so is there a two-party system? Take away the differentiation, just go by political classification. The conservative-leaning voters cast 64,538,000 votes. The left-leaning, the Green Party, and that other party, 62 million. The national vote was won clearly, dominatedly by conservative voting. This is not the first time this has happened. In the last 3 presidential elections, the Republican Party would have won the presidency in all 3 of them by a decisive margin if the Libertarian vote had voted Republican. So, my favorite news organization, right? I hate this place, people with a white-hot burning passion, and they are going to go out of business, and that's a day I will dance in the streets. This is from their article, November 14th. It's a running dialogue because, you know, it's just annoying. One specific instance in which you think the exit polls are sending the public journalists in the wrong direction. And Nate, the pollster, says, I think the exit polls are probably off on education, age, and the white vote. Well, thank God, that must mean they're accurate on everything else, right? What? In other words, the exit polls are useless. The exits say that the electorate was half college educated. Well, they don't want to hear that, right? The left doesn't want to hear that because that means it's not stupid white racists that won the election. So the exits say that half of them were college educated and just 50% over age 65. Now, I do think the exit polling is completely flawed, but this is the left saying that their own polls are useless. 2 weeks ago, you were supposed to vote based on their polls. Okay. Fish. This is my friend from law school. This is really important. After I graduated from law school, got my first job, we decided to go to Mexico, have a good time, party. The San Diego Regatta was there, lots of good-looking blonde chicks. Unfortunately, sadly, I met my wife on November 19th, before we took this trip in February. So, despite the fact that there were many attractive women around and I was a young lawyer, I was miserable, so I called her and asked her to marry me from Mexico. And so, instead of having a great party with a bunch of hot chicks, my friend and I went fishing. And I got these of mine.
What does this have to do with Trump?
What this has to do with Trump is not a darn thing, but my partner in crime and the person that helps me with everything I do and keeps me at least moderately sane and I will be together 21 years tomorrow. So, she ruined my trip, but she saved my life. So, Electoral College, y'all know this, right? You've been dealing with it. This is Wikipedia describing the Electoral College, and this is just to answer that question about why it's important. There are 538 presidential electors, 270 to win. All are winner take all except for 2 states. That's New Hampshire and Anybody remember the other one?
Nebraska.
Maine. Nebraska. Who said Nebraska? Way to go, Don. The purpose of the Electoral College originally was to deal with communication issues in a country in which horse travel was the standard way that travel was occurring. But it has another function. There are many other functions involved with it. Whether you like it or not is arguable. There are a lot of arguments for and against the use of Electoral College in the modern age. Whether you believe it beneficial or not, modern presidential campaigns are run on the rules as they exist. Texan Republican voters stay home all over the state because they know we're going to win. California voters stay home because they know they're going to win their state. So no one, and I literally mean no one, knows who would win a popular vote for president because we've never done it. Frankly, it is the system we have, so Democrats need to put on their big girl panties and grow up. This is a quote from...
I see that.
Okay, so the lessons to be learned. The real culprits of 2016 were a corrupt Washington elite who were as biased as they were incompetent and clueless about how disliked they were by the very America they held in such Davis Hanson from National Review. National Review is a national conservative magazine created by William F. Buckley that did not support Trump, and to the last still had never Trump articles on their webpage. So, support.texasgop.org, FB Send Them Packing is a fundraising site to help those poor darlings that just threw their temper tantrum to move to Canada. So if any of you are interested in supporting the celebrities that want to leave our country, there's the website. Bye now.
But the Canadians have an immigration policy.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're going to have to go through a number of steps before they can even consider being allowed into Canada because they actually have an immigration policy in Canada. Yeah. So, the point of all of this is what? Ultimately, when you get right down to it, I guess I'll move over here for you. Okay, got me? What happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. First of all, congratulations are in order because you, the people in this room, and the people like you all over this country, you're what happened. The left has tried to look for demographics in their exit polls to prove that it's this, that it's that, or something else. But I have a conclusion, and I haven't seen it yet in the media, so see if anybody else comes up with this at some point. And this is the first election in the last, I'd say since George W., in which the right voted like the left, and the left voted like the right. What do I mean by that? In the past, when the Republicans have been divided over abortion, gay marriage, any of the other issues that they throw in front of us, the red flags that cause us to lose we've gotten separated. Christians disagreeing with evangelical Christians, Federalists arguing with constitutionalists, arguing with libertarians, arguing about domestic policy, about foreign policy. And in the past, the left always votes together as a bloc. Always. No matter how divisive their candidate is. They finally found a candidate so divisive, so worthless, so unworthy of respect and support that they couldn't vote together as a bloc. They couldn't keep their voters together. Current national guesses is that Hispanic vote in some areas that they counted on to be 14% was closer to 30%. The black vote in Philadelphia, which has been monolithic at 93 and 95%, early numbers 80, 82, 84%. That doesn't sound like that good, but if you flip it, that means 16% of black voters in Philadelphia either stayed home or voted for Trump. My message to you is, I believe the country is now voting as Americans, more than they ever have in the past. And I believe the Republican Party finally set aside, for what's been 12 years now, finally set aside the distinctions between the far right and the moderate right, the establishment and the Tea Party, and every other false narrative that you've been fed by the left for the last, help us, 30 years. And we voted as a bloc. Now, Granted, the majority of those votes came from white people. The majority of this country is white people. That's not a racist thing, that's just a thing. The majority of those votes came from working class people, non-college professional. That's because this country is a working class country. And you know what? The Republican Party has now become the party of those people. The plumbers, the electricians, the roofers, all of the other skilled auto mechanics, etc., all those skilled jobs that maybe don't come with a college degree, they used to be the Democrat parties. Now they're not. And we saw that in this election more than we've seen it in any other election. Whatever else you have to say about Trump over the next 4 or 8 years, the one thing you can say is that he never got off message, and he kicked down the door. He kicked down those barriers between the establishment, the Christian, the evangelical, all of those little false barriers that have been on the right. He kicked them down and said, I'm going to do these things. Now, what do we do? What do we do? Those of you that are old enough, which a lot of us are, sorry babe, never be ashamed of your age, son. Trust me, 50's coming up quick on me. But for those of you that most of us are old enough to remember the Reagan Revolution, that's why I titled this the Trump Revolution. The Reagan Revolution was only partially a revolution, and part of the reason it was only a partial revolution is we didn't keep all of the Democrats that converted. In Texas we did, but nationally we didn't. And I'm going to say that what we as Republicans can do is we can do that. We can capture these crossovers and make it not a crossover, make it a migration. Get these folks to remember that we're not talking about black and white, we're not talking about Hispanic, we're not talking about Catholic and Protestant, Judaism or Muslim. We're talking about either American or not. It's really simple. And what's the fundamental principle? You saw my article in the paper. What's the fundamental principle of this country that Democrats and Republicans agree on? We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator by certain unalienable rights. Among these, life, liberty, and originally property, but then pursuit of happiness. 407 years ago today, our forefathers set forth upon this nation, this continent, a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the principle that all men are created equal. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. The first quote is from Thomas Jefferson, 3rd president, and also the Declaration of Independence. The second is Abraham Lincoln, the first Republican president who did free the slaves. The Republican did. And the last one is John F. Kennedy, who would have been a great Republican president. And was the last great Democrat president. What's the core? All men created equal on this continent. The law flows from these people, from the Creator. And ultimately, if all men are created equal under the law, and law is paramount, then all of these other divisions have got to go. We've got to stop talking about them. So, what can the Republican Party do? We can slam that message home day after day after day. We are the party of equality. We are the party that says that we don't care where you came from, we don't care what color your skin is. If you're an American and you're for this country, welcome. If you're not, if you think you're going to live here and take our money and send it away and violate our laws and come here legally, then goodbye. Bye-bye now. Thank you for coming, but it's time for you to go home. And that's the message the Republican Party can win with, and that's the message that Donald Trump needs to be helped to send. Because all Americans agree on a few things. It's a great country. Our law protects us from evil. Our military and police protect us from evil. And if we will protect them and impose the rule of law, this country will be a great place to be. You cannot have 12 million people in this country having broken the law to get here and say that the rule of law exists. Have hope. Please remember that Donald Trump is a flawed vessel, sent forth to do great things. I was going to put a picture in my slideshow of a nasty house. And this is the imagery I want you to have as you think about what he's facing. You went on vacation on a cruise ship, you got out there in the ocean and the cruise ship had a mechanical problem. And now you're on this cruise ship for 2 weeks instead of the 3 days you thought you were going to be there. Those of you that have kids, remember when you had teenagers in the house? And you come home after that, being stuck out in the ocean, and what do you see in your house? Think about what it would look like. And I had good kids, but I know what my house would have looked like. The dishes, the trash not taken out, the dirty clothes. Think, even with good, what it's going to look like. That's the country right now. We've had a president that didn't pick up after himself. Didn't pay the bills. Light bills have gone off. And that's the country. And now Donald Trump has been invited to the front door and said, here you go. Good luck. And that's what's going to happen. And if you think about it when you got home from that long trip, what would you do? Would you clean the kitchen first with the cockroaches and the nastiness? Would you clean the bathroom first? What about a bed? You got to have a place to sleep. What would you do first in that situation? That's what's confronting Donald Trump. It's easy to stand on the outside and say these are all the things that are wrong, but imagine the enormity of trying to address all of the issues that we're talking about after having done how many jobs in public service? None. So he's going to have to appoint some good folks. He has started on that track. You're not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy with some of his appointments. You're not going to be happy with his priorities. In 2 years, half of the people in this room are going to say, I never liked that Trump guy. And you're going to probably be right. But the point is, please remember this. Remember the feeling when you saw that morning, when you woke up, Christmas morning in November, and you knew that Hillary Clinton was not going to be your president.
Amen.
Think of that feeling. Each time that you see that Donald Trump has done this or that he hasn't pushed hard enough on this, remember that feeling, and remember that Olympia Snowe, the worst senator in the history of the United States, Republican senator, voted with the Republican majority 70+% of the time. Even Olympia Snowe was right 70% of the time. Donald Trump will do well for us if he stays on focus, on message. If he does half of what he said he wanted to do, he will do wonders for us. If he does nothing but appoint the next 4 Supreme Court justices that we want, he will be the greatest president in the last 20 years.
Yes.
As far as what we can do locally, I'd like to encourage a few things. Patience, continue to build bridges. Remember that as dumb as I am, as a moderate establishment, and horrible as I am, Lyle, I'm still on your team. And we got to win these fights just like this, because you can't do anything if you're not in office, right? Lyle and I argue all the time about things like our congressman, and it's a good, healthy thing as long as it results in us growing and being stronger and being able to answer those criticisms. And that's what I'm going to say now. We've got a president that I believe is wanting to do the right things. For those of you that are Christian, you'll know that St. Paul on the road, when the most evil man in the world, the person who outlawed Christianity, can be turned to God, anybody is susceptible to it if they'll just open their heart. For those of you who aren't Christian, I apologize, but we do that sometimes around here. We still talk about God at this party. Please remember that God works through all flawed vessels, because there's only been one that wasn't flawed. And that if you'll support him and help to bring other people to support him, that it is my firm belief that we will see a renaissance in this country. Gas prices have already started dropping. There's a reason for that. OPEC is now fearful of the future. 2 years ago, OPEC, for those of you that don't watch this kind of stuff, OPEC increased their production and maintained their production despite the drop of oil prices, even though they knew it was costing them billions of dollars to force down oil prices in this country. Why? Because Texas oil production and some other areas, Montana and North Dakota, had increased dramatically due to fracking. There was talk of the Keystone oil pipeline. That pipeline was going to also lower the cost of bringing oil down to the refineries. And they wanted to force us out of business. And they, to a large extent, they were successful. Royalty prices dropped. A lot of companies went out of business, but not enough. Not enough. And they held on, and they held on, and now we've rewarded them with a president that's going to put a stop to this stuff. It's going to be willing to understand that trade wars are not what we want, but by God, you don't get to choose who you fight a war with sometimes. And there's some countries that need a trade war. I'm for open foreign trade too, until the other side doesn't play fair. And then at a certain point, you got to get down and roll your sleeves up and get nasty. And what's about to happen is an interesting energy war. And we should look forward to it, because we're Texas, and we produce energy. And we run our government on energy. So the future is bright for just us in Texas. The future is bright for this country. Ohio joined the states on the right side of things. Indiana, Florida, Virginia was that close. North Carolina, South Carolina, they said Georgia was a problem. Not even close. The future is bright. We have a majority Congress, a majority Senate, and we have the presidency. Who would have thought I'd ever get to say that during the time I was county chair? It's a beautiful thing. You're largely, people like you all over this country are largely responsible. So let's help them do it. Let's grow. Let's bring young people in and let them see that the benefits of good management are good government and good economy. Locally, by the way, your beloved sheriff won re-election by 75%. We got 71%, so congratulations for pulling in 4% Democrats. As far as the future holds on Kay, those of you that kind of know us, Kay and I worked together at the city when I first got here. We were friends a long time. I remember Chubby Kay. It's a tough conversation to have. We will start having it at the County Commissioners Court. Unfortunately, we'll have to put a replacement in. I know it feels odd to be talking about replacements because we're just dealing with it, but if you know somebody that's from that area that's
a good Republican replacement.
would be appropriate replacement, encourage them to send in their information to the County Commissioners Court. And I'm going to take this opportunity. I know I don't have to tell you right now. I already talked to Ralph, but what Fred said. I know we've got to get people elected from that, but they need to be a Republican. I've got the magic computer logo. I can find out whether they voted Republican. Y'all need to call on me. And I'm telling you folks, tell your commissioners, because if they do, it will be the first time the Commissioners Court has called the county chair about an appointment in this county ever. You want to know about appointments in this county? The Republican chair has never been consulted. Never.
It was a shame too.
Talk to your commissioners. I mean, I'm not saying I should necessarily have a lot to say about it, but I would think the Pachyderm Club, the Republican Party, and the CDRW should have some say. We're the ones who try to keep people elected. No offense, Rick, I'm not beating on you. I'm just saying, we've never been consulted. And that last county judge never even thought about it. So I think we have the right to say, because we're the ones that are going to keep them in office. And we're the ones that made this county 100% Republican. It didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen by accident. It happened because the people in this room, every one of them, I can point to, well, I'm sorry, I didn't think of them. But there's some new folks, but the vast majority, almost every person in here has done something to help me elect a Republican. And they have the right to have their voice heard, because they're the ones that are going to keep that office Republican. So, sorry Rick, I didn't mean that. But you're a good guy, you'll come and get beat on in public, so we appreciate you. Anyway, if anybody has any questions about what we're seeing or what we're going to do, feel free, you know I love to talk. But thank you for your patience. The Executive Committee of the Republican Party meets the second Monday each month. You're always welcome. The headquarters will be closing down as of the end of December. We were trying to do something more permanent, but it just hasn't worked out. If anybody wants to have input, I'm meeting with some folks today, and if anybody wants to have input on that, feel free anytime to call me. We'll talk about options and opportunities. As far as the distant future, the Reagan Day dinner is coming up for the Republican Party. Last year we had Alan West. Anybody that missed that, I'm terribly sorry for you because it was awesome. And but this time we're looking. Alan West has been talked about bringing him back. He was that good. But we're looking at another speaker of similar quality and national reputation. But because of our victory in the presidency, I'm sorry, it's just pushed off that. We were going to do it during January or early February, but we don't want to have an event anywhere near the inauguration because that's just too much fun. So what we're going to do is we'll push it off to later in the spring and we'll keep you all posted. So if you have any interest in attending, please come join us. I know it's fancy dress, but it's really a good night. Alan West was absolutely amazing. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you, sir.